Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll chant chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 46 to 50.
यावानर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः सम्प्लुतोदके तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा समत्वं योग उच्यते दूरेण ह्यवरं कर्म बुद्धियोगाधनञ्जय बुद्धौ शरणमन्विच्छ कृपणाफलहेतवः बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह उभे सुकृतदुष्कृते तस्माद्योगाय युज्यस्व योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्.
We have seen up to shloka number 46 of this chapter, entitled as Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means the yoga of knowledge. Now, in this portion starting from 45 till 53, Sri Krishna is talking about the desireless actions that lead us to self-realization or enlightenment. So in 45, he said, the Vedas are only talking about Traigunya Vishaya. The subject matter in the Vedas is something pertaining to the world, the material achievements. They prescribe so many rituals, etc., for you to follow to be able to achieve the materialistic purpose. But you should realize that there is no end to material pursuit. It keeps on going, you go on increasing the vasanas, desires. Therefore, you should turn your attention towards the self. What is the benefit you get when you turn your attention towards the self? He says in 46, Yavan artha udapane sarvata samplutodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. When the village is flooded with water, what is the use of the pond? The use of the pond is to draw the water for the survival purpose. Now, but the whole village is flooded. Pond is also inside that. Similarly, for an enlightened Brahmana, what is the use of the Vedas? When you get enlightened, you experience infinite bliss because your original self is absolute bliss, absolute existence, absolute knowledge, and absolute existence. Sat Chit Ananda. So when you attain the Supreme, you realize the self, you are experiencing infinite bliss in which the small joys that you get from the material contacts, that is also included. You understand? Infinite includes all finite. So what is the use of it? So therefore, you have to go beyond the Vedas. Don't get stuck there. Vedas are useful. It is used to rise above the desires of the world and then go towards the self and achieve the self. And when you achieve the self, you experience infinite bliss, which includes the limited joys that you experience in contact with the world. This is what he said till now. Now, 47th shloka, 48th shloka, 49th and 50th, you can say, he focuses much deeper into karma yoga. The sense, all he wants to say is, a person who is learned meaning learned in the scriptures, learned not just informed, but one who is understood, reflected upon the scriptural injunctions, and then I've developed the buddhi. So that's why he calls karma yoga as buddhi yoga. Because with that buddhi that you have developed, you will be able to direct your actions. Therefore, he calls karma yoga as buddhi yoga. He's already introduced. He said in 39, in the previous topic we discussed, 31 to 40, he discusses your duty to act. There in 38, he has given the summary. And in 39, he says, till now you listen to Jnana Yoga, now you listen to Karma Yoga, he says. And what are the advantages of Karma Yoga? What are the disadvantages of following karma just to fulfill your material desires? All that he discussed. Now, he is slowly getting onto actual Karma Yoga in a summary actually. Because then, detailed Karma Yoga he gives in the third chapter. The entire third chapter is called as Karma Yoga, the Yoga of Action. So now, in 47, he will give the knowledge which will make us develop the right attitude. See, remember this. When you do an action with right bhav, action mixing with bhakti, it becomes yoga. Bhakti, when you say, is nothing but love towards the higher. Bhakti and love are one and the same. Devotion and love are one and the same. Love means identification, oneness. When you identify with something equal to you or lower to you, you use the word love. When you identify with something higher than you, you use the word bhakti. You say, I love my dog. I love my friends. I love my brothers and sisters. You say, I'm devoted to my parents. I'm devoted to God. I'm devoted to my work. So devotion and love are one and the same. Only the direction is upon the higher. So when your action is combined with the knowledge of the higher, it produces proper aptitude with which you will be doing the action. So when karma and bhakti mixes, it becomes karma yoga. You understand? So that attitude. So I've mentioned in some of my classes before, 3 A's are very important. Action, attitude, and awareness. When you have the awareness of the higher, you will develop the right attitude. When you develop the right attitude, then your actions will be performed as service or karma yoga. So he's going to talk about that knowledge with which we'll develop the right attitude. Then in 48 and 50, he will give very interesting definition for yoga. He says, in 48, he'll say, Samatvam Yoga Muchyate. Balance of mind, balance in everything, keeping yourself balanced is yoga, he says. In both profit and loss, success and failure. Then in 50, he'll say, Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. Skill in action is yoga. So he explains further in those slokas. In between, in 49, he compares action done merely to fulfill the material purpose, material desires, and then action done for a higher purpose, evolution, emancipation, enlightenment. Karma yoga and karma. Karma and karma yoga he compares. And then tells karma is lower, karma yoga is higher. And what is the benefit of performing karma yoga? How it helps us and takes us to self-realization. We'll talk about 51, 52, 53 in that. This is how the thought flow is. So now let's take up 47th shloka of this chapter, very famous, oft-quoted shloka.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Now this shloka, like we said, it's very well known, oft-quoted shloka, but also misunderstood shloka. If you misunderstand this shloka, you may fall into laziness, inaction. In fact, in this very shloka, he condemns inaction. Still, by misunderstanding, you may fall into inaction. We have to understand this correctly. All misunderstandings have to be removed. This is the problem, no? The irony is what? In the Gita, is going on emphasizing action. He tells how to do the action. But people are worried, Arey Baba, if you go to Gita at early age, you will stop acting. This is the misunderstanding. So we need to understand these shlokas correctly. Every word, every portion of this shloka needs to be understood correctly. So now let's get on to this shloka. Karmani eva adhikaraha te. That is first portion. Karmani eva adhikaraha te. Then ma phaleshu kadachana. Second portion. Third portion. Ma karma phala hetur bohu. Third. Then fourth is ma te sangostva karmani. What it is, we'll understand. First, let's see the translation of Swamiji. In English, she says, what this shloka is saying is, your right is in action only. Karmani eva adhikaraha te. Your right is in action only. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Never to the fruits, never to the results. Then, ma karma phala hetur boho. Let not the fruit of action be your motive. Then, mate sangostva karmani. There what he's saying, nor let your attachment be in action. So, four. What it is? Your right is in action only. Your right is in action only. Second is, never to the fruit, results. And then, let not the fruit of action be your motive. Third. The fourth is, nor let your attachment be to inaction. So let's understand why he's saying all this. When he says, your right is in action only, he wants to tell us, at any given point in time, as a human being, you have a choice. And what is the choice? The choice to act or not act. Not acting is also your choice. That is also an action at the mental level. A decision at the mental level. Choosing not to act. So he says, your right is in action only. Now, the next one, he says, never to the fruit. This is what is highly misunderstood. And he says, never to the fruit. What he wants to say is, what you want to do now, that is in your action, in your hands. You have control over that. But once you have done that, the result depends on so many factors. Isn't it? I think 2 weeks ago or so, I was sitting on, for the class, opened my laptop, tried to sign in. Zoom is not signing in. Nothing is working. Everything is hanged. I don't know what was wrong. So, 20 minutes I was trying. Sudarshan was also helping me what to do, what not to do and all that. But it was not opening. So, last minute, I told Sudarshan, please, because he was able to, I signed in through my phone, and then I told him, you please cancel the class. Because through the phone, I will not be able to conduct the classes, because it is not connected to the proper Wi-Fi. There was an issue there also. Anytime it can get disconnected. So I said, let's not have the class. So what I'm trying to say is, that day I came, students also came, but we could not have class. So what is in your hands coming to the class? I prepare, come, sit, be ready to take the class. Computer can hang, Wi-Fi may not work, पता नहीं क्या क्या problems आ सकते हैं. Students may not come. If students don't come, I don't have the habit of talking alone. You understand? So we will not have the class. So what he wants to say is, karmani eva adhikaraha te. Means you have right only over action. You have a choice with reference to action only. You can do the action. But the result depends on so many factors over which you have no control, over which none of us have any control. Right? So that's why I gave this example. I come prepared, sit, start. Many things can go wrong, or everything may go right, and we may conduct the class like today. So the result depends on so many factors. Therefore, he says, never to the fruit. You don't have any right to the fruit. Now, this is misunderstood by some people as if he's saying you should not work for the fruit at all. Please understand, when you do any action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, any action you do, there are so many other factors adding to it, there will be a result, which may be favorable, which may not be favorable, which may be as you thought, which may not be as you thought. Right? So now, when the result comes, even if it is favorable, people misunderstand the shloka saying, a result aayega na, you should not take it. You should give it to somebody else. That is not what he's saying. He's not saying that. So in other words, now when we conduct this class, obviously there are certain expectations. The students have certain expectations. The teacher himself or herself has certain expectation. Right? The idea is what? To study, reflect, come and talk about it. We also have question answer session. We try to remove the doubts and get the benefit spiritually and materially. This is what we expect. Nothing wrong. But whether things will go as per our expectations, that is not in our hands. This knowledge we should gain. When we gain this knowledge, that will bring about the right attitude towards the action. Now we are having wrong attitude towards the action. We are attached to the action. So therefore he says, you develop the right attitude. How will you develop right attitude? By developing right understanding. See, when children are growing up, in our Shastras, they say, first 5 years, the child doesn't know anything, So the child is just going to play, sleep, and eat. You give nutritious food, allow the child to play as much as the child wants to, and automatically when the child is tired, the child will sleep. And let the child sleep as much as the child can. And then the brain develops. Then after 5 onwards, not exactly 5 or so, approximately. After 5, till about 15, you as parents, the teachers, everybody has to live certain values, set an example, and the children imbibe those values by following you, by looking at you. Then slowly from 12 onwards, the intellect starts developing and they start asking questions. So Shastra say after 15, you become their friends. Parents become the friends. Along with them, you reflect whatever knowledge you've got from the Shastras, from your experience, share with them, but give them the freedom to independently think upon it and come to conclusions. Because this is very important to make them get the right knowledge. Otherwise, they get all kinds of wrong knowledge, wrong information. Accordingly, they'll have attitude. You understand? In the society, what kind of attitude we have towards women, what kind of attitude we have towards elderly people. I saw this in US. It's just an example. I'm not saying everything there is great, everything here is not great. Nothing like there are so many things good here, good there, bad here, maybe. But one thing I saw there, a school bus came, it stopped to pick up the children, and all other lanes, the vehicle stopped. Nobody is going. Not only the vehicles behind the bus, opposite direction, this left, right, all directions, everybody stopped. Cars. After the children got into the bus, then when the bus moved away, then everybody moved. You understand? What attitude we have towards the children? What attitude we have towards the opposite sex? What attitude we have towards the elderly people, towards the society, towards wealth? It's all, we need to understand them correctly. The problem is we don't understand, and sometimes we don't want to talk about certain things. Then obviously what they'll do, they'll learn things. They'll go to the Google, they'll refer to the internet, or they may learn from some other friends, and they'll get only wrong information. It's not necessary that they'll get the right information. So then they'll have a different kind of an attitude, then they function differently. This is the problem. So he therefore wants to give the correct knowledge first. Once we gain the correct knowledge, what is that? Look at your own life. At any given point in time, as a human being, you have a choice to act or not to act, to be or not to be. You have the choice. This is what we call as Purushartha. Purushartha in Sanskrit means, literal means Purushartha, the wealth of the individual. But Purushartha means what? The free will, the choice. And then it also means goals. So we say 4 goals are there: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So with the free will, you have to decide what is your goal, and develop right attitude with knowledge, and then approach that goal, achieve, and go towards the ultimate goal. This is the point. This is how you have to function. So therefore he says, at any given point in time, you have a right with reference to action only. You can think and decide and do the action. But once you have done the action, for example, you're shooting an arrow. Once you have shot the arrow, till then you have a choice. But once you have shot the arrow, you can do nothing about it. It will hit the target, depending on other factors, obviously. So therefore, he says, your right is in action only. Be clear about this. So a lot of people misinterpret, saying, oh, you should only keep on doing action. You should not have any expectations. Expectation is normal in the mind. It's absolutely normal to have the expectations. But along with that, you need to have the knowledge. What? I have the right to action, I have the choice, and I am having expectations. For that, I am thinking, planning, programming, executing, plan A, plan B, sab kuch hoga. Sab kuch I can do. But still, as an individual jiva, ego, I have limited control only. Many factors are there in that action achieving success or not, over which I have no control. So when I understand that, I understand the insignificance of the limited self-ego. I also understand the limited self-individual having purushartha, the choice. So, with this understanding, what happens is my ego gets neutralized. I have humility. With humility, I execute my action. You understand? Otherwise, with ego, I'll be executing my actions, expecting that my results have to be fulfilled. Then that causes mental agitation. When that causes mental agitation, I will not be able to do the right action. When I don't do the right action, then I won't achieve success. Period. Because even if the other factors contribute for my success, my action has been done wrongly because of my agitations. I won't achieve success. Therefore, this verse is not saying don't have expectations. This verse is not saying that you should, whatever results come, you don't accept it. Nothing like that. Accept, enjoy. But please understand, you have right only with reference to action, never to the fruit. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Never ever you have right over the fruit. And you say right over the fruit means it is dependent on so many factors. And then he says, Ma karma phala hetuhu. Now this is very interesting. He says, let not the fruit of action be your motive. Now, though you have expectations, let that not be the motive propelling you to action. If that is the motive propelling you to action, then it's karma. It's not karma, yoga. Remember that. Nothing wrong in having expectations, desires. It's normal. You understand? But to have that as your motive, which means what? Desires propelling the action. Then you are doing it to satisfy your personal desires. So I comes, my comes, mine comes, ego comes, doership comes. I am the doer. Already Sri Krishna gave the knowledge. In the portion 11th verse to 30th verse in this chapter. There are so many pointers about Atma was discussed, self was discussed. Here, we also saw Akarta, Abhokta. One who thinks that he kills, one who thinks that he is killed, both are fools, he said. Both are deluded, he said. So, there we have studied, you are neither a doer nor an enjoyer. The body, mind, intellect merely functions according to their niyati, gunas. Atma, in the presence of Atma, in the presence of self, they get enlivened and then they function. But Atma, which is your real self, is not the doer. We have given the example of petrol, etc. I'm not getting into that. So you are actually the non-doer. You are actually paripurna. There is nothing to be attained. Those kind of knowledge he gave. So now, if you have that knowledge, then also you will not claim doership. And if you have this particular knowledge he gave just now, that there are so many factors, the moment you come down to the relative level, it was with reference to the absolute level. Now, the moment you come to the relative level, in the relative level, this individual has right now has only choice to do certain actions or not to do. And once done, with so many other factors involved, it will produce the result, which may be as we thought, may not be as we thought. So once you understand this, then what he says is, then why you should have a motive? You let go of your desire to the total plan. Thy will be done, not my will be done. You understand? Yes, no doubt, I have a desire. But now I will not work purely for my desire. That's the motive. Swami Ramtita asks, why you fellows want to have a motive? Why can't you function without a motive? You look at any other creature or look at the nature, nothing in the nature functions with a motive. A rose blossoms even on a Sunday in the rose garden or a Monday or whichever day that is closed. You know, in Chandigarh, they have a nice, beautiful rose garden, different varieties of roses. Maybe one day I think is closed. Even on that day, the rose will blossom. Because the rose is not blossoming. Because people are coming to watch it and appreciate it. There is no such thing as Star Rose of the Month award. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Rose is blossoming not because of the awards and rewards, appreciation, nothing. Simply blossoms because that's its nature. You understand? And a rose may end up in a garland, which may end up on Bhagavan's or God's idol around him on, they garland the idol, or it may end up garlanding the dead body. And the rose, while growing up, while blossoming, is not thinking whether I'll end up on the God's idol or on the dead body. कुछ भी नहीं सोचता है. You understand? So why can't you function like that is the question he's asking. And you will be able to do that when you have this knowledge. You will not have motive. Swami Ramtita says, when the cow gives milk, it has no motive. When the rose blossoms, it has no motive. Nothing in this universe has a motive except human being. Meaning what? A personal selfish attachment is there to that action. That spoils it. That destroys it. That motive you got to remove with this knowledge. So there is nothing wrong in having desires. There's nothing wrong in having expectations. You understand all this, you have a choice, all this is not wrong, all that is fine. But with that, no doubt you are doing any action with a certain expectation. But you should also have this knowledge. Then what will happen? You will keep aside your motive and you will execute your actions as your duty, as expression of your nature, disconnecting your mind from the thought that as if the joy is in the result. The actual joy is in doing it. If your happiness depends on the achievements, you may not be happy, you will never be happy. Even if you are happy, it will only be for a few seconds because whether you will be able to retain it or not, that thought will come in case you achieve. So, what he wants to say in this portion is, let not the fruit of action be your motive. Meaning, let the desire not propel your action, nor let there be attachment to the result while doing the action. While doing the action. Please understand. Desire is there, fine in the mind. But let the desire not propel. Give a direction to it with your buddhi. Choosing which one will help you to attain the goal of life. What is real happiness? Is the happiness is in the goal result, or is the happiness is in doing what you ought to do, what you love to do, expressing yourself. So it says, let not the fruit of action be your motive. Meaning what? Let the fruit of action be a byproduct. That's what it means. And he says, let it not be a motive, let it be a byproduct. Let it be a result that accrues. While acting, you keep aside whether will I get it, will I get it, will I get it. You may not, because you have understood previously. The result depends on so many factors. With that knowledge, you can keep aside the motive. You will be able to deal with this particular knowledge also with the knowledge we have discussed before. So that knowledgeable person develops the right attitude. The knowledge swallows the motive. Isn't it? Then the motive is swallowed. So this is Rajas. This particular portion, what he's talking about, let not the fruit of action be your motive, is what? This is how a Rajasic person functions. A Rajasic person is tremendously acting in the world, propelled by desires, with full of motive, wanting to get the results attached. There is another fellow, Tamasic fellow. How does that fellow function? He is attached to inaction. Wrong understanding fellow also acts, out of attachment to inaction. Like previously he said, your right is only with action, not to the result. Oh, result? Result ke upar I don't have haq. Then why should I do action? I will not do action. You can go to inaction. Now, when you don't do action, remember we discussed in the beginning, your action is one part. So many other factors is the second part. Both put together only will produce the result. Now, Tamasic fellow also has desires. When he or she doesn't do the action, resorts to inaction, then his part is not done, her part is not done. Then obviously you will not get the result. You will be deeply frustrated. So therefore he says, let your attachment be not to inaction. You understand? So karmani eva adhikaraha te, you ma phaleshu kadachan, never to the fruit, phal. Ma karma phala heturboho, let not the fruit of action be your motive. In other words, you don't be a hetu, he says. Hetu, in the sense, who is the hetu, who contributes to the karma phala? And technically, when you go a little deeply, the karma phalam is not only the immediate result at the laukika level. Laukika means worldly level, which is the fruit, which is the result of the action in attaining something material or whatever, the goal. There is another karma phalam which is unseen karma phalam. There is seen karma phalam, unseen karma phalam. What is seen? Drishta phalam. What is not seen? Adrishta phalam. Drishta phalam, seen, is the worldly results. Adrishta phalam, what technically in the Shastras they call it as punya and papa. If your actions are propelled by good desires, then you develop punya. If your actions are propelled by selfish desires, bad desires, you develop pap. If your actions are propelled by no desires, you don't develop any more punya or pap. Now, not only pap is pap, technically, punya is also a pap. From what sense it's a pap? From what sense it's a sin? Whether you gain punya or pap, it will keep you away from yourself. It will keep you away from your original nature. So, scriptures say when you develop punya, you will have to exhaust the punya and then you will come back to the next gen. So, what's the point? You will still continue in this chakra. So, the formula is what? God plus desires equals human beings. Human beings minus desires equals God. So, we have to reduce the vasanas, go beyond the vasanas and desires. Now, when our actions are propelled by desires with the motive of the fruit, then where is your thought? Thought is on the fruit. So when it's on the fruit, then attachment to the fruit. Pata nahi milenge, kya nahi milenge. The possibility of not getting it is high. और मिलने के बाद भी उसको कैसा मैं प्रोटेक्ट करेंगे, हाउ विल आई प्रोटेक्ट इट, इतना ज्यादा चिंता होता है, which will disturb you from doing the right action. You understand? From doing the right action, it will disturb you. And when you don't do the right action, will you achieve the success result? Not possible. So the motive actually destroys you. So therefore, before plunging into action, you should, with this knowledge, swallow the motive and simply do the action for the sake of doing it. It's your obligation, it's your duty, you do it. No prefix, no suffix. You understand? Just like so many factors are involved, they are doing their bit. You have certain things within this universe which you have to do, you continue doing. Whatever is your duty, nature. So, he says, let not the fruit of action be your motive. If it is your motive, that means what? You are attached to the result. And to the extent you are attached, you don't get the result. To that extent, you will do all kinds of mistakes. Your actions will become impoverished and you will not achieve the result. And not only that, the fact that your actions were desire propelled, the adrishta phalam called punya and papa also you develop. So not only materially you don't achieve the result, spiritually you are going to increase your vasanas, delay your progression towards the Atma, the self. Enlightenment gets delayed. Therefore, he says, let the fruit of action be not your motive. So people misunderstand this and they say, oh, we should not think about the result. So which means what? I just have to go on doing action. Don't think about the result. Which means what? They think you should not even plan. Plan means you have an interest in the result. Who doesn't have an interest in the result? Even when you work in spiritual field, the interest is to self-realize. What is wrong in that? The point is, planning is not what he's condemning, asking you not to plan. No, he's not doing that. Nor is he asking you to not learn from the past. See, this is something we need to understand in this context correctly. When your mind by itself goes to the future, which is a result in this case, when the mind by itself goes to the result, mind by itself goes to the future, it's called anxiety. When the mind by itself goes to the past, it's called worries. Okay. But when the intellect, the buddhi, understanding that you have a choice to do the action this way or that way, for that you need to do a lot of planning. So your intellect plans the course of action. For example, you're going to catch a train or a flight to go somewhere after a month. You need to book the tickets now. You may not get the seat later on. When you go to book the ticket, internet may not work, all that is fine. But you have to plan, no? So planning for the future is an intellect-driven action and it is done in the present. So planning becomes your duty. It's an intellect-driven action. It's not a mind-driven action. You understand? Similarly, learning from the past. Your intellect is taking the mind to the past, learns from it, and then plans, programs the action and executes the action in the present. So planning for the future, learning from the past, both are intellect-driven action and both are present action. Therefore, it's your duty, you have to do it. So Vedanta is not saying don't plan. Don't learn from the past. This is all misunderstandings. Oh, karmaniya adhikara, first you have not studied. You still planning? Bhagavan to hai na? Bhagavan will take care. You just go, just float. That also has a meaning, but it has to be understood correctly. Like in that poem, olive tree, poet beautifully says, "Let I on in no conditions. I entrusted it, the olive tree, to him. He who made it knew what it needed better than a man like me." So that poem also is saying the same thing, but it's again misunderstood. People think, plan, no learning from the past, simply go about doing. Impulsively, careless. All this is what they think is spiritual. If a fellow plans and programs, a useless fellow. He is worldly. Vedanta, spiritual fellow should not be planning. What he is saying is, in spite of planning, which is your present action, still things may not go according to your plans. So therefore, he is not saying don't plan. वो फ्यूचर के बारे में सोचना मत ना, so plan कैसा कर सकते? No, planning is a present action. It comes under the first part, कर्मण्येव अधिकारः. It doesn't come under this third part or the second part. Please understand this correctly. So therefore, कर्मण्येव अधिकारः ते मा फलेषु कदाचन. Therefore, when you plunge to do the action, never think of the result while doing the action. After planning, everything is over. Then plunge. While doing the action, don't be thinking about the result. You understand? Let not the fruit of action be your motive. Because you understand. We say, the result is not in our hands, it's in the hands of totality. So we use the word Ishvara. You're not comfortable with the word Ishvara, don't use it. You use totality, whatever. Probabilities, I don't know what all people use. You understand. You use whatever you're comfortable with. We have no problem. As long as you understand. We have no problem in using the word Ishvara. Right? So, therefore, what you do? You surrender to Thy will be done, and the My is joined with Thy. That's called yoga. Then you do your actions without thinking about the result, with no motive. Then you are functioning like anything in the nature, like that rose, like that cow giving milk example. But one difference: in nature, the cow is giving milk unconsciously, you can say. Rose is blossoming without any motive, unconscious. But a human being now with this knowledge functions exactly the same way everything in this nature functions, but consciously, with awareness. You understand? With awareness. Now the difference between a karma yogi and a jnani, the way they function is same, no difference. Then what is the difference? Here, the karma yogi is using the buddhi and functioning thus. In the case of a jnani, she functions spontaneously. That's the difference. He or she functions spontaneously that way. Because they've gone beyond the desires. There will be no motive whatsoever. So they'll be naturally functioning like this. So therefore, what is karma yoga? A right attitude brought about by the higher awareness, higher knowledge, which he's talking about here, and then executing the action. 3 A's I mentioned, no? Action, attitude, awareness. So when it mixes, like he mentions here, you will not fall into attachment to inaction. So falling into the attachment to inaction is tamasic. Falling to the attachment to the fruit while doing the action, rajasic. And you do the action the way he is explaining here, sattvic. That's it. There is tamasic, there is rajasic, there is sattvic. So you don't function tamasic. Some tamasic way of actions you don't do, which is attachment to inaction. Rajasic, attachment to the results while doing the action, you don't do. What you do? You simply do your action. understand. You have accepted whatever may be the result. So while doing the action, there is no bhaya, there is no fear, there is no insecurity. With freedom you act. You're driving a car. Sometimes, you might, for example, you park the car, you wait for the signal, you're waiting for the signal to go green. So you stop the car, you put the car in neutral, and you have also used the handbrake, let's say. You put the handbrake also. And when the signal goes green, you put the gear to first gear, and then you drive. Sometimes the car moves, even though it is in handbrake. But some sound comes, and it's not moving very freely. Like this only, we are all driving our life when we perform actions with motive. It's like driving the car with handbrakes on. Now, when you hear the sound cut and all that, freely it's not moving, then you get disturbed. You don't know what's going wrong. And then when you realize, hey Baba, I have not put the handbrakes down. Because on the this thing you can see, dashboard. You can see handbrake is on. You put it down. Then smoothly the car moves. So we are all driving with handbrakes on. All he's trying to say is drive with no handbrakes on. This is the right understanding. But what we are doing is we stop driving only. And Bhagavad Gita says, why drive? अगर भगवान आपको कर्म करने के लिए सोचेंगे तो you will be made to do the action. These are all misunderstandings. Everything is happening as per this, as per that. And kya interpretations people have in their mind. So the right thing is, you have Purushartha, you have the choice. And you have no control over the result. Now when he says you don't have control over the result, is it absolutely correct? It is correct to some extent that you have no control over the result. But it is also not correct to say that you have zero control over the result. You have some control over the result. What? Your part, which is action. You understand? Your part, as per your actions, your consequence. And when we say action, it's not just physical action. Action along with what kind of attitude, sub mix, okay, you will get the drishta phalam and adrishta phalam. Understand? Therefore, from one angle, if you see, you have no control over the result. From another angle, you have control over the result through the action, because it's the consequence, the result. So that way you control it through your actions. So once you understand all this, your focus simply shifts to the present action, and it is, before it was the results. Now it's come back to the present action. When it was with the results, mind was disturbed. The energy was getting dissipated. Now when it shifts to the present action, the energy gets channelized. Dissipations reduce, or you come to zero dissipation. Then the action becomes potent, powerful. And even if it is not producing the results immediately, with this knowledge, I'm not bothered about the result. That's so many factors. I don't care. I am doing the right thing. The joy comes from performing the right thing to do. The joy is not coming from the results. The world may look at you as a successful person or not successful person, whatever it may be, because they don't understand all this. But as far as you are concerned, I am doing the right action. Every time when we do an action, this is the question Swamiji asks. For example, now also we are having yajna by Sunandaji. Swamiji was conducting these yajnas for so many years. Now the yajna in Delhi is now being conducted by Sunandaji, senior disciple of Swamiji, and also his daughter. And she's also been teaching, I think, since 85 or so. And she's coming to Delhi next week, 14th to 18th October. She's coming to teach. Now we are all organizing the event. So many people are there helping us. We're all conducting this together. Now, when supposing we do all this as much as we have to do, in spite of it, there may be people coming to listen to her in person, may not be enough people. We don't know. We understand all that. But we should not slacken our efforts. So Swamiji asked only one question. Have you done your obligation? Have you done your bit? If you have done, the results didn't happen, doesn't matter. But if you haven't done, then you have to pay for it. You have to pay for both your omissions and commissions. Doing what you ought not to do and doing and omitting what you ought to do. For both you have to pay. So therefore, karmani eva adhikaraha ma phaleshu katachana ma karma phala heturboho ma te sangostva karmani. Why will you be interested in the result? When you know that the result depends heavily on the present action. So you do keep simply doing that, cutting off all the other extra paraphernalia. With no prefix, no suffix. You simply do the action. With all the planning, everything. And if the results doesn't come, doesn't matter. What will you do? You will continue doing the action with the results not going in your favor, or the failure has come instead of success. What will you do? I told you, learning in the present, learning from the past. Okay. And keep correcting. And you will be functioning. You have thrown away the thought of winning or losing from your head. Though everybody play only to win. Nobody plans to lose. But take care. You lose. You can learn. And so many nowadays the coach show the videos of the other fellow. You and then develop your skills, your weaknesses. You improve and find out what the weakness of the other fellow. All that you do. All that comes in the first part. Karmani eva adhikara. So you continue learning and continue moving. You enjoy this process. You will be in the struggle. 100%. You'll only be in the struggle. Is what Swamiji says. Your motto in life should be to strive, to struggle, not to succeed. This is exactly what he's summarizing there. To strive, to struggle, not to succeed. Not to succeed doesn't mean quote failure. Or whenever you succeed, give the success to somebody else. No. You have put in effort. So when somebody appreciates you for the success, gracefully accept it. Simultaneously understand so many people have contributed for it. Nothing wrong in it. So, to strive, to struggle, not to succeed. So you are constantly in the struggle. You are constantly in the process of learning, planning, executing the action. You are enjoying that. So your joy comes from that. Your happiness comes from that. It's not in the result. If it is in the result, you will never be happy. Even if the result comes as per your thinking, as what you wanted, still you will, now I have to defend it. I'm the defending champion. बहुत बड़ा stress हो जाता. That's all he's saying. So it's a beautiful shloka. Please understand these things correctly. And then when you follow this, today's action becomes tomorrow's success or failure. So once you understand this with the right attitude, having got the right knowledge, you develop the right attitude and you'll execute the right action. With awareness, attitude, going with the action, you will achieve the success. Whether you are successful or not, you continue. Let's conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.